Hi, it's Lel from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm taking part in another furniture challenge. So the challenge is the Spring Clean Challenge. Now, it's hosted by Sab from Sab's Rehab. So you'll see everybody else's that's taken part in the description box so you can see the full playlist of everybody that's taken part in the challenge. The challenge was this: you were supposed to find a curbside find. Now, living in the UK, you're not allowed to just put furniture outside and leave it there. We're not allowed to do that. That's called fly tipping. So what I've done is I was contacted recently from someone who had a piece of furniture. It was in a community centre and they were going to be binning it, and they wondered if I wanted it for free. So I went along to get it. And to be honest with you, sometimes I don't like to offend people and say I don't want it, but I took it just because I took it. So anyway, there's nothing really that badly wrong with it. It's got a wonky top, which Martin will have to fix. It's not attached at the moment. It's got a couple of handles missing, and there has obviously been some sort of animal that's chewed the bottom part on both sides. So these things have to be fixed. But apart from that, I mean, I've got much worse pieces of furniture over in the shed. However, they're vintage and I paid for them, so that's not part of the challenge. I think the challenge is getting an item for free. So it is what it is. It's not the best pine. It's not like some of the Mexican pine things I've done. This is just a cheap repo. But I'm sure we can make it look a little bit better. So I'm just going to get Martin to have a wee shimmy around it and we can show you it. So this is it. This is the darling thing. As I said, top's hanging off. There's a handle missing there. It's funny, there was a handle missing there, but there was other handles in the drawer, but there weren't handles that fitted this piece. This bottom back is a little bit loose, and as I said, it's got these sort of chewed areas here. But as it stands, it's probably, to be honest with you, it's probably one of the nicer, like better shaped things that I've done. I think it's because I'm used to doing like vintage. So what we're going to do first, I am going to remove all the handles and I'm going to paint it. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Yeah, it'll have to go out to the workshop and get all its repairs done. Then I'm going to paint it. So when it gets to painting, I'm going to show you what colour. I recently changed to the what are they, Martin? First in, first.
They're sauce bottles.
They're first in, first out, but these are just sauce bottles because they're much cheaper and we got loads of them. So I put all my paint in these because I was working in warmer conditions and my paint in the tins was drying up. And to be honest with you, I used to think these were a little bit gimmicky, but I wish I had done this a long time ago. They're fabulous. They're just not messy. So in doing this, I've worked out that one of my Annie Sloan paints, because I use Annie Sloan, takes 2 of these. So there's always about this much left in the paint. So what I did yesterday was there was kind of a whole array of this much left over. I put it all into a can and I'll show you the colour that came loose. It's a sort of bluey greeny colour. So we're going to do it with a sort of I'll show you the colour, but it's just a mix of what I had left over in the bottom of the cans. There was some pink that went into it and I just thought we'll see how it goes. So that's what we're going to do. It's already been thoroughly cleaned. I think they cleaned it for us. So it's all clean, it's lovely and fresh. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't even have to do that. I just need to remove the handles and Martin needs to repair it. So a lot of talking there, but I'm going to get on to getting it done in a minute. Okay, so I convinced Martin just to do it here. Now, so far he's taken these parts off the sides and the bits that were eaten. They were eaten on each side. They've been removed, so that's fine. You know what, that's happened with them. The cute little feet I had. Now you could start cutting away at the sides and everything, but we're not going to do that. These aren't going to be big enough. So I went over to my stash and I found these, which we cut off something else, but they're too wide to go on like this. So we're going to remove each individual foot, and Martin's going to attach it so it's got some feet. So that's the sort of plan. So Martin doesn't want to be on camera today. He hasn't washed his hair. Anyway, so I'm doing the technical explaining. I don't know how this is going to happen with screws, I would imagine. I'm sure this isn't.
Not that.
It's not.
I'm in a manky old jumper.
He says his jumper's manky. Yeah, so it's not so much a DIY. I'm not doing the DIY. I'm a furniture artist, but I'm explaining what's happening. Okay. So we flipped it back round. Martin's fixed the top, it's solid. We've got the legs on it. They look slightly unconventional at the moment, but we'll make it work once we paint them all in. Now, this piece was free, and this was all mixed up from Surface Plain, and this is the colour that I ended up with. So this sort of, it's almost a duck eggy blue sort of colour. So this is the colour that I'm going to be painting it, and I'm going to give it two solid coats of this, and then we'll get on to all the design work. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to paint it all this beautiful colour that just a mix of all the paints that I had. There was, I can't even begin to say, I think there was like, if you use Annie Sloan, I think it was Antibes green and a little bit of Florence and a little bit of, what did you say? No, I didn't write them. I wrote on the lid it was a mix, but I didn't say what it was a mix of. And it had a little bit of pink in it as well. So this is what I ended up with, and it's a really lovely colour. I really like it. So I'm going to get on and I'm going to paint the whole piece this colour. Okay, so it's all finished painted. That's it. That's where we've landed. It's done. So I've got some old ochre, which is a creamy colour here, from Annie Sloan on my palette knife, and ordinarily I would kind of do in here, but I'm only going to do some of in here and round the edges more predominantly with this. So there's not a sort of rhyme or reason. I'm setting a scene for a transfer. I don't know what stuck to that there. So, and the reason why I'm using a palette knife is because it gives you lots of lovely texture, and it kind of, it's not smooth, you know, you've got some interest in your furniture. So that's why I'm doing this. This is going to take me a hot minute, but I'm kind of trying to get to where I want to go to next. So I'm going to go up this band here. And I'm just going to kind of frame it out. So I don't want this to be too boring for you, because I can imagine it probably does look quite boring. Maybe a sort of center here. I don't want it to go up too high. I mean, I think that's probably enough. But I'm also going to do in here too. This is where I'm kind of really going for a spring feel to try and, you know, it's a spring challenge, so I'm going for a spring sort of feel if I can. If I'm open, that's what I'm going for. But for those that have never watched my videos before, you're probably thinking this looks like a bit of a hot mess, but it's okay.
It'll come good.
Thank you, Martin. You have the faith. He says
totally.
he says it's all going to come good.
Looks like this at the start.
So, yeah, I think that's probably what I'm going to do across all three panels. So obviously I'm going to go into this one next and bring it down. So I'm not going to make you endure all of this, but you get the sort of gist of what I'm trying to do. It's just a good sort of scene setter for a bit of a transfer. I'm just going to be putting a little bit of a transfer on just along the bottom to start, and then we're going to probably break out some stamps and anything else we can get our mitts on, really. So I'll do this and then we'll come back in a minute. Okay, so I've put the white on. I'm sure you can't wrap your head around where this is going. Neither can I. I'm only kidding, I can. Listen, I printed off some peonies, some peony flowers, roses. And what I've done is I've just ripped them out. I've got 3 here at the moment. Now, I know the blue isn't the same colour of blue. I'm going to have to do quite a lot of blending around it. Believe it or not, I was trying to get it nearest to this colour, but I don't know, I didn't achieve my goal. So I've got some Mod Podge here, if I can get it open, and a nice soft brush that I'm going to apply my glue with. And I am literally going to have them at different heights. So I want this one sort of round about here. So I'm going to do the bottom part first. and then doing the groove and then up to the top. So the same applies with all decoupage. Make your glue nice and smooth so it's not lumpy, and then you're not likely to get any wrinkles in the groove. Make sure I get it right up into that groove there so that there's not any parts that don't have any glue, because they're the parts that are more likely to then wrinkle. So I've probably gone way over there with my glue, but I'd rather go over than under. And I am, no, actually I haven't. I need a bit for this leaf here. There. So this one is kind of, I still haven't got it right. Third time's a charm. There we go. They're bigger than I thought. Now this is gonna, as I said, this is gonna have a spring, of all the spring feels about it, this one. So I'm thinking my positioning, I want it to have it here. Now I'm gonna make sure there's no wrinkles down this part first. Bring it up to this part that goes in, go under there, and then flip it up on top of there. And I'm not too concerned about this background colour, not the background colour of this being the wrong colour, because we can do a cheeky little bit of blending, blend that all into the green. I'm just making sure all my edges are stuck down. So that's one down. I'm just going to leave that alone till it dries before I start blending it, because it'll lift at the edges again. I'm going to do the next one probably a lot lower here, and the last one maybe sort of tilting like that, so they're all sort of staggered and don't look like they're all the kind of same, something like that. And I'll go ahead and I'll glue those on now. Okay, so if you look at this one and this one, they've been blended in, and this one's still to do. And all you need to do is go around it with your colour that you there's a discoloration from this, and this is just where my Mod Podge was, so I'll just eradicate that as well while I'm at it. So you just need a little artist brush for this, and remember to kind of like go right up to the edge of your paper and kind of make it thicker where your edges, just so that your blend can't see it once it's all done. So it took me a wee bit of time just to go around it, but not that long. I wasn't that kind of precise, to be honest with you. Once I've done this, I'm going to be adding a little bit of a very light pink, which is called Antoinette. It's an Annie Sloan paint. It kind of matches with this pink up here. In fact, it's an actual lighter pink than that, if I'm honest, into the white distress with my palette knife, and I'll show you that now. I'll stop doing this just so you know what I'm doing. So remember, and go towards your join so that you're building up a layer around it. I'll just finish off with this part in the middle, because then it gives you a good idea of, use probably a smaller brush than I'm using. So what do you do if you don't have anything with peonies on it? You can use wallpaper, you could use wrapping paper, you could use the IOD peony stamp if you own that, you could use a stencil, you could use a stamp, and you know what, you could even just hand paint some flowers in. I'm only putting these in here because I'm looking, although the peonies are not exactly, they're a summer flower, but I just want sort of spring sort of colours. So you could use any of those things to get where I've got to so far, so that you're thinking, well, I can't do that because I don't have that paper, or I don't have access to a printer, or these kind of things. I didn't use my own decoupage paper, the Made by Marley decoupage paper in this challenge, because I feel like it's kind of cheating. So just this is access. If you've got a printer, then you can probably print off some flowers. If you're using an inkjet printer, remember to give your paper
a little bit of a spray with some spray sealer. Let it sit, because as soon as you start to kind of like work with it, it will bleed. When you go to seal it and things, the paint will bleed out if this is laser printed. So there'll be no there's no bleed or anything from this. Right, so oh, mind you, I've not got that much more to do. I'll just keep going now. Sorry.
I'm gonna stop doing this.
Oh, I'm sorry, Martin. I
I'll
know.
just finish it.
To be honest with you, this day feels like the day that's just it's about 11 o'clock at night here, and I feel like I've been at this most of the day, and I haven't really got that far, but just because I've had interruptions and I've been doing other things, and then I've come back again and I'm doing a bit more, and Martin's editing, so I'm just keeping myself out of mischief, so I have to keep shouting them to come through. Right, okay, ignore those two colour changes from here. That's just where the Mod Podge was. Right, okay, the Antoinette, it's this colour here, which is pretty cool with this. Now, I'm just going to do a little bit over the top of this. I'm just wanting to add some really interesting layers. I am going to be putting on, I have some of this, which is the IOD Franz Botanical transfer. I don't have a huge amount of it, but I'm going to be running some of that up it. I'm going to be doing some stamping on this too. So what I'm doing now is it's just a little bit of scene setting, and I just want it to look nice. And I kind of think I've got pinks in here, so I want to do some pinks. And obviously I'm going to be doing some stamping that's maybe going to involve a little bit of yellow, which means that we can tie together with this. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing as much as obviously as I did with the white. I'm just kind of like doing little parts, and I'm trying to get it to make it have different texture this time round. So in different kind of areas, like I might want to kind of touch along here with it, and maybe up this edge here. But that's all I'm doing. Putting the pink on next. So last night before I went to bed, I put a little bit of yellow distress in there. I was getting tired and I thought, right, enough's enough for tonight. So today I came back in with fresh eyes and decided that it needs a little bit more artwork before I move on to transfers and stencils. Now, I had already cut up my transfers into the bigger sections. So they're going to be positioned along here. And I've cut up my stencils into small sections so that I can do what I need to do with the small parts. But in doing this, I found this Annie Sloan stencil. I don't know. I have no idea what I can't remember actually purchasing it. I must have used it at some point, but it's a strange thing to me. Anyway, I have this. So I think we might put some of this, we'll put our transfer down, but we'll put some of this over the top of it. But we're a wee bit away from that yet, because when I stood back from it today, I'm going to do something like, I'm wanting to look like industrial meets spring. It's hard to explain in my head, but I think I'm going to do some block stenciling across here with words that say bulb seeds and something else on there. I don't know what else, bulb seeds and sundries, maybe stuff, Martin says. Something like that there that pulls this together, that makes it look like maybe it could have been in a potting shed. That's where I'm kind of going today. See what happens when it's a fresh day. Suddenly your inspo is off the charts. At 1 o'clock in the morning, you're running out of steam. So always a good thing to go to sleep on your furniture and get up the next day and you're totally invigorated. So what I did do was, because I realised that this wasn't enough. Now these were vintage images, but the ones that I have to rip these out, but these are not vintage images. I thought it would be quite good if I mixed the two. So I have a kind of tulip. I'm obviously still going to rip these out. It's just, I am now going to go away, because you don't want to see me apply any more decoupage paper and paint around it. I'm still trying to get my blue like this. This isn't, I mean, I'm not doing very well. This one here was too dark. This one here is too light, but you know what I mean? I can paint around it. So I'm gonna put some of these positions on here to give it a little bit more oomph before I bring in more green, and I then decide what I'm going to be doing with this. Layers. I think you're right, Martin. Layers. Martin, you could be on the channel today, because Martin's washed his hair and he's got a lovely new shirt on. I think the sort of how I want to put this together is leave these as standalones, maybe some greens up here, and the design work come down and up, if you know what I mean, with lots of multiple layers. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go away and apply these. And this isn't that you need to see me do it. This is just your own personal choice if you're going to do something like this. Again, I'm in the very fortunate position that I can just do things like this. But if you're not in the fortunate position, you can just use your inkjet printer at home. Make sure that your images are always royalty free. You can't just nab anybody's image off the internet and use it. You cannot do that. You need licenses for anything that you need if it's not royalty free. So once you find something that's royalty free, or you've got wrapping paper, wallpaper, it's a myth that you can't blend thick paper. You can blend wallpaper onto furniture, easy peasy squeezy, just the same way I did it, rip it out and stick it on. So if you've got some nice wallpaper that you think, obviously as well, this is my sort of style. If you think maybe this to stress is too much, this texture, I just like a lot of texture because it's good for me to obviously bed things down on top of, and I think it's nicer than it just being stuck on a plain surface, but that's your choice. So I'm just giving you an idea of a spring piece, so the rest is up to you. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to stick these on, I'm going to paint round about them so that everything disappears and it all works. I also, later coming on down the tracks, we're a wee way off it, but I obviously have lots of stamps and stencils, but I have from the birds and bees, these are all a bit stuck together, transfer from IOD. I have bumblebees, which we are going to be adding at some point as well, because the writing up here is going to be black, maybe not quite black, but it's going to be very sort of industrial up this top half, so we're going to have to bring some black down in here and maybe just lightly paint that in. So this is where it's kind of going. I'm unsure about the top. I think I might just do a sort of distress, like it's had to, you know, it's been sitting outside and it's had a little bit of paint slapped onto it. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm too far away from here to worry. I'm too busy focused on here. But this is what I'm going to do. So I shall go and stick these on. Okay, so I've applied the other flowers. They're all on and I've blended round about them. It's hard to tell right now because what's really happening right now looks a bit of a hot mess. I just wanted you to see my thoughts on how I was going to be putting this together. Now, for those that watch my channel, you have seen me do transfers so many times, it's just the norm. But for those that haven't come across furniture transfers before, these transfers are from a company called Iron Orchid Designs. You pull off your white part and you place it onto your furniture, and it always works better if you have sealed your furniture. I have been a wee bit cheeky and I haven't sealed this, but in general, you should always seal your furniture. And then what you do is you get this little stick, and I don't know whether you remember the transfers when you were young that you could stick on things. It's the same principle. You're just scratching away, you know, kind of burnishing it onto your furniture. Now I want that little part to be on the end of that drawer. And I'm only going to do a couple just so you understand, because for those that have seen me do this before, it's a little bit like, well, it's a wee bit dull. And then you just gently pull it off like that. And then what I do is I use the inside of here to just burnish it onto my furniture. Paying attention if you're going in any sort of grooves, that you're making sure that you're doing that. So there is my cute little transfer there running down. Now, because this was running down, I want this one to run down off this one, and this one is slightly more tricky because, as you can see, I've got a great big gaping hole where my drawer goes, but I can show you what to do with that if I remove my masking tape. Probably the best thing to do is put this top part on. Now, in general, I would normally just run it across, but there is quite a big noticeable gap there, so I'm just gonna cut that here. This isn't something I would normally do, and just reattach it here, but I'm reattaching it on this side because there's another gap there. So you're going to do your flat side first into your gap. So that's your biggest side, and under that little edge, like that. And then you're going to run this edge into the other side of the gap. And this saves all the, I've seen lots of people put lots of different furniture transfers on and doing it in a really sort of kind of kind of what I think is confusing. I like the sort of the slapdash method, but this one works for me. So that's on there like that, and we need to burnish it. I'll just throw the paper away. I'll just get this piece here, just to make sure that you're getting it down and you're burnishing it down in those grooves just before sealing, just to make sure that that's done. That's a really important part of the process, making sure it's stuck on. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go away and all the pieces that are stuck onto the furniture right now, because they're stuck on pretty much where I think I want to put them. Now, transfers go quite a long way. I cut a lot of mine up ready to use, but I don't think I'm going to be using them all in the front, which gives me a little bit of real estate if I want to do something funky on the top, which I might now do, which I hadn't been planning on doing. Oh, that shouldn't really happen. It shouldn't really take your paint off. That's why you should seal it. So I'm just not even going to worry about that. What you can do, because I should be teaching the correct way, if this happens to you, just what to do is sacrifice a leaf of something else and just reapply that over the top. Yeah. I'm going to go on, put the rest of this on, and then we will be getting to the point where I want to start sort of firming up the design a little bit. I think I'll be bringing some of the stenciling in, some stamping. Maybe going to do a slight bit of detail just on the edges of the sides, just where the feet, you know, were attached and everything. We don't want to have any sort of screw marks or anything, even though they were filled. I don't want any sort of rough areas. So I'll do a little bit along there. And I'm thinking I'm maybe going to do something on the top, which might probably look a little bit like, because there's a groove and a flat part, I'll maybe do the flat middle part, sort of distress, and add some of these transfers that's left over. So what I've done so far is I've applied all the stencils. I did what I said I was going to do, put a bit of distress up on the top and just slightly around the edges, which I'll show you in a minute. And now I'm going to be using my stencil, but I'm not going to be using all of the stencils, all of the flowers, just some of them in some of the areas where I think it needs it. So I'm mixing up two different kinds of green. I'm just kind of like adjusting them so that I'm kind of looking at what I have here. So I maybe want a paler one here, a sort of pale green. So I'm just mixing myself up a paler sort of green. So I've got like a pale green, a mid green, and a very dark green. And with the likes of the pink, I'm just going to be taking, oh, I didn't clean my brush there. I just want a tiny, like, because the Capri Pink gets really quite pinky quite fast. So that's me got, and I'll think I'll just use that as is for my mid. So there I've got my 3 different shades as well, just in case I want to mix up my stenciling. So let's see where I want to put one on this section here and which flower I want to use. I think I quite like this daisy. I'm going to have to reuse this stem in a minute, so I'm not going to do the daisy in whites because I've got pink, so I'm just going to use my lightest pink. This isn't a stenciling brush I'm using, which is a bit naughty of me, but hopefully we'll not get too much bleed through. If we do, we'll not be talking about it.
Are you using the swirly whirly method?
Martin's asking if I'm using the swirly whirly method, and yes, I am using, Martin, I am using the swirly twirly method. I don't know what that method's actually called. I'm going to just touch in my darkest pink. I'm going to offload it a little bit. And I'm just going to do something like this. But what I'm also going to do is just dip back in there and just kind of give some sort of tone to that pink. Like that. Now, my green, I'm probably going to go with my mid-tone green. And I'm going to take it down there. Now I can see there's a piece of my decoupage paper, so I don't want to do it any further. But what I want to do is I want to extend this out. So if I turn it around this way and flip it down that way, it'll make it look like my leaf's going down that way. So this is what I'm going to do, this sort of thing. We could do maybe, don't want to go too many parts over where it's quite like this one. But I really would want it to come this way. I'm trying not to let the rest of the stencil touch. I'm going to try and find another appropriate brush here. And this time I'm just going to be using the cream by itself. And sorry, it's not the best position to show you this, but everybody's probably used a stencil. Stencils are my most favourite thing to use, because they just give you so many options. They don't cost too much money, and you can use them over and over and over and over again. I'm going to go into my darker green for my stem here, and I think it just goes down like this, right down to my bottom part there. And put a little bit darker green in here. So that there. So I'm just going to fill in maybe some here, maybe some there, maybe one there, there, just kind of around it, just to kind of finish it off with a little bit of stenciling. I think actually my centre in that flower could actually be a little bit more vibrant if I put that back on there. I mean, that's a bit cheeky for me to do this. You shouldn't really, but oh, just going to do it anyway. Just want this a little bit more pink. Yeah. So that's all I'm going to do now. I'm just going to stencil some parts, and then we'll get up to, I can't make up my mind whether I'm going to use a bold. I've got some big, large letter stencil fonts over in the studio, or whether I'm going to stamp it with the IOD stamps. I think maybe the rough cut, sort of little bit higgledy-piggledy, the way you would stamp things. I think the big stencils would probably work better, because the IOD stamps tend to come out quite perfect. So I think I'll probably do that, and you're more likely to have maybe those at home as well. So this is where we're going. Okay, so I've got stencils here. You can't really see them now. Unfortunately, my S was missing. Now, I'm going to show you these. I've had these for about 15 years, and I'm not exaggerating. And I just keep using them. And as I say, stencils never die, but they do die if you lose a letter. So I've roughly made myself up an S. Now, why am I doing this, and why am I doing it in black? There's a lot of people that go, oh, that's really pretty, blah, 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 blah. I'm not into I want to make it look like it's been in a pot and shed. I think it takes a little bit of the girly, the bit that I'm not 100% keen on, away. So by doing this is my way of doing it. So I've made my own S, and you will see how dodgy it looks at the end. But what happened years ago when people put stencils on things, they didn't do it the way we do now, when we lined it all up and we got and got a, because I actually have a silhouette. I just think this makes it look a little bit more real. I think the thing is, when people stenciled things back in the day, it was a rush job. They just wanted folk to know what was in that drawer. They wanted people to know what was in that packing crate. They didn't actually care. They just put it on, slapped some paint on, and off it went. It didn't matter if it was squint or slightly, these are the things that make things look a little bit more authentic as far as I'm concerned. These are not caveats for, if I don't get it right, then this is what I'm going for. I'm just saying. So you're not going to really be able to see that much until I've finished this, but I'm using a stencil brush for this part, because it's going to need it, and I'm going to have to push down, because all my letters are individual letters, and they're going to move about a wee bit. So I'm doing, what method is this, Marty?
Swirly whirly.
It's the swirly twirly method Martin's saying. And I'm just going along at this now. I'm going to have to take my B back out of the middle, because I need a B at the beginning, because this one's going to say bulbs, and I don't want any sniggering at the end when you see my S. When I say it's a little bit crude, Martin's going to be horrified. He's not seen it yet. Oh, I maybe should have showed him first so that he could have had a good laugh. Right, okay. So I'm putting that on there like this, and as I said, I just taped on each individual letter. See, I've had a little bit of a bleed through under my dodgy S. I can fix that, and I can fix those two lines there. I'm keeping these parts, because normally if you wanted to look perfect, you would have those all painted in, but I wanted to make it look like it is a stencil. I'm just going to rip my B back out of the middle of here, which is a kind of messy job, but I'm not scared of that. And I'm just going to wing it for this part. So
got a kind of lumpy part of paint up there, so I don't want to. Do you know what I'm going to do? Because I don't mind doing this. I'm just going to take that little edge away. I'm going to put my bee up. Yeah, like that. I think my positioning is pretty good. Now, I'm just going to put a little bit of masking tape around this edge here because it will run over and I don't want it run over there. I'm just going to, once I've showed you this one, I'm just going to go away and do the rest of my drawers. I'm not going to make you have to endure any more of this. So I'm just loading up my brush and then offloading it. Don't want it to run over too much at the top, so I'm going to have to be kind of careful. Now, as I said, I can fix the little bloopers. I think there's going to be a blooper on this one as well, of where it went over. So I can just shabby up the pieces and parts, but you get the general gist. If I fix my very crude S, you can see that that is going to say bulbs. I can fit that back in here. So this one's going to say bulbs. Oh, it is a little bit good at this end. Seeds and string. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I wish I hadn't cut the top off my bee then and brought it down, but I think I can show you a clever way of actually fixing that. Because if this has ever happened to you before, it certainly happened to me. Right, I've got a fine artist brush here.
Ask me how I know things.
It is ask me how I know. So I've got my script brush here, and because my bee's slightly higher, I am just going to do this. I think maybe doing that way you can just extend your bee, because the eye will look at your first letter and think that's kind of arcing up a little bit. If I hadn't cut it to get in that groove, it would have been probably quite good, but hey ho. Right, let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I would say that looks way better. It was kind of just, it was too low before. Yeah, I'm not going to play around with it anymore because it's the reason why I'm doing it in the first place. I will, if I clean my brush, I don't know if the paint's 100% ready to show you, but how I will fix this part where I've got the over kind of bleed under. I'm just using the cream here, which is part of my distress. Again, I'm just using my brush and I'm just going to do. No, I'm probably going to have to do 2 coats over that. Straighten that up a bit. I'm not at the best angle, but you know what I'm doing here. I'm straightening that up. And I'll do a little bit. I might fatten out this edge because, as I said, I made the stencil and I'm just going to get rid of that. And this bit here. And because I've got stencil underneath, it doesn't matter what colour you put it with to get rid of that. There. I'll have to fix this up here as well. But that's, I mean, it's not the worst desk in the world. I mean, it's not the worst. I think I might just get my black and just hand paint it and tidy it up there and there. But that's what you get from making your own S. So seeds and string, or string and seeds, whatever one's going to be done. I'm going to go on and do them. And then once we've done that, we're going to be doing some stamping with these lovely bumblebees. And then we will be getting nearly rolling to the edge of this. Bet you're glad it's been going on for quite a while. Okay, so I'll see you in the next clip. So what I've done is I've sanded where my lettering was. It was just too black and it didn't go with the all over piece. I've kind of run the sandpaper around there as well. I don't know why, I just did at the time. I've started to stamp on the bees. I tried one up there. I can always get rid of it if I don't want it. But I've got one here, and I've done a wee row of them up here. And these are just from the birds and bees stamps from IOD. They're really nice, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them in varying sizes. So if you just want like a totty wee one,
and you just wanted to put this totty wee one in here. I'm not sure what totty wee one is, when it's Scottish, is translated to any other country, but it means the smallest one. And maybe this sort of size here. I mean, I don't want to have them crazy. I don't need to have tons and tons. You should always stamp on a hard surface. That's why I'm stamping on a carpet. Bad. I'm not going to go crazy with them, just enough that maybe one over here, maybe one up there. I think this is okay down here. So I'm just using StazOn ink for this, which just comes in an ink pad. I like StazOn ink, it's the ink I use. And if you find something you like, well, just stick with it. I'm going to do another one of these sort of size. I've put a big one here. I don't know if Martin, you can get as far as over there, but yeah. So that's all I'm doing here. On the top, I have the distress, and I've just done the same sort of format. I've put some pieces and parts of some transfers and put some flowers from the decoupage paper. I'm just going to do some bumblebees up on this stamp part. I've done a little just plain distress and no pattern or decoupage or transfers on the side, just a little bit of distress along the edges. And this is us coming to the end of this. Why did I put my transfer away, my stencil up here? Is because I didn't want it running through the middle of the knobs, and there is going to be a little bit of lost. I think I am going to go with these ones here. I think these will be quite nice with the piece. So I'm going to seal it now, and I'll sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. I'm going to seal it now. I'll be using French Chic sealer, tough coat, and I think I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. I'm going to be sealing it 2 coats of sealer. And remember, when you do decoupage paper across big gaps like this, we're going to have to slice those with a razor blade and tuck in our loose ends, re-glue them and tuck them in. So I'll have one to do here and one to do across here and one here, but all the rest is good. I'm going to do a few more bumblebees, open everything up, glue it down, seal it twice, put the handles on, and the next time you see this, I'll be over in the studio and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Okay, so before I talk about what I've done, I'd really like to thank our host today, who is Sab from Sab's Rehab, and this was the Spring Clean Challenge. And if you want to see all the other participants who took part in this challenge, if you go to our description box, you'll see the link to the playlist to everybody else who took part. So what did I do with this piece? It was free, which was one of the kind of stipulations of the challenge. It wasn't the roughest thing, as I said. I'm looking at it, I've got a lot much rougher vintage things but I had to pay for those. So it was pine. It was structurally all sound. There was nothing wrong with it. Its actual bones, the top was hanging off. Martin repaired that. We popped some feet on the bottom, which makes it look a little bit quirky, and I was going for that sort of pot and shed sort of conservatory look, I think. So I painted it with a mix of colours, and that was another thing that I just used up, loads of different colours left over, which kind of hit upon this sort of greeny blue, which is really nice. I decoupaged the flowers and I stuck them on. I added some IOD transfers onto it too. Obviously I did some distress before I did that. What else did I do? Did quite a lot. I stenciled it with an Annie Sloan stencil and added some little extra. I mean, you can't tell the difference between the stenciled flowers and the actual decoupage flowers, which is a sign of a really good stencil. I won't say it's a sign of a good stencil. I won't just say it's a sign of a good stencil. So they were all added into the mix. The distress made the sort of focal layer. Then there was the pattern. And then because it looked a little bit too feminine, a little bit too girly even for me, I wanted to bring it back down to what I was imagining in my head, which is how to put a little bit of extra distress and almost sort of give it that industrial look. So I used very old stencils that I had. I could use stamps, I could use lots of different things. I could use my silhouette, but I didn't. I used those just to show you that stamps, stencils never die. They do if you lose your S, but I just winged my S and it was fine. And with a little bit of distress, who's going to be commenting on my S's? There happened to be quite a lot of S's in this, and I couldn't make it work with anything else. I did the same on the top, and I don't actually think, and Martin will show you this at the end, I did quite a bit of work on the top as well. I did more bumblebee stamps with the New Birds and Bees stamp from IOD. I used StazOn ink. It's been clear coated thrice if you count the time that I went over the decoupage paper. And that is really your lot. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I think that it's springy and fresh, and I've done the staging a little bit differently just so that you can see the top, and I thought that was quite funky. Things to play around with. So I've been Lael from Made by Marley. If you've enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to our channel, push the bell, give us a like, leave us a comment, and I'll see you again another day. Thank you. Bye-bye.